Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are picking right back up with my Robe à la Francaise project that I've been working on for the last couple of videos. If you have not yet seen those videos and you want to watch those first, I will link that playlist down below in the description. But as you can see, we have part of a dress. So where we left off last week, we got the sleeve mock-up down, which means that the first thing that I'm going to do is take this sleeve off and I'm going to cut out the actual silk and the lining, which I don't know if it's going to be linen. I don't know if I have enough linen left to make a linen lining. It might be cotton. The lining of the bodice is linen if you haven't seen those other videos, but I might not have enough left for the sleeve. So we are going to cut the sleeves out, and once we cut the sleeves out, and I mean I'm going to put the sleeves on too, but once we cut them out, it means that I will know how much fabric I have left for the petticoat. Honestly, I think we're going to be fine to even potentially do the entire petticoat out of the silk. I don't think we're going to have to do a cheater back, but I guess we'll cross that bridge after we cut those sleeves out and we can really examine just how much silk is left. I think we're fine though. The other thing that I need to do at the same time as that before we move on to the petticoat is I need to unpick my hand sewing right here on these pleats because I was silly and I forgot to change them after pinning them on and trying them on and seeing they were wrong and telling myself I need to change those pleats. I didn't do that. So I need to unpick the hand sewing and zhuzh those pleats over more so they actually reach the side of the bodice instead of being lost back there. And then at that point, I think we're ready to go on to the petticoat because I don't actually want to sew this section in until I have the petticoat and can really tell what the angle of this like stripe really needs to be to reveal the petticoat underneath. And then that's going to determine if I pull that up a little and kind of taper that stripe angle in a little bit at the bottom, or if I keep it as is and therefore the stripe would actually veer off a little bit more, showing more of the petticoat. I just am not sure which look I like yet. So let's go ahead and do the sleeve, unpick this. I'll show you all the steps along the way, and soon we'll be getting to the petticoat. So I know that I did the mocking up of the sleeve in the last video, but I always like to show you where I wind up compared to the pattern. So I had actually increased this pattern up to a size 26 and added 2 inches of length. And really what wound up happening is I wound up going smaller than the pattern itself in most cases. You can see where this is actually like a size 20, over here a size 16. It's a very different shape though. So actually by the time it gets up to the arm's eye, it is larger than the pattern. It is also a little bit taller, but not 2 inches taller. And the biggest thing also is that I changed where the crook of the arm is. I mentioned this in the last video, but that is something that they were talking about in the blog post that accompanies this pattern, that you may need to do that. I'm not sure why that is such a like known thing and it didn't just get fixed in the pattern itself because I don't know who would need it over here. But yeah, so that is my sleeve pattern. Let's go ahead and cut out the fabric. And as I figured, I only have enough linen left for one sleeve, so we're going to cut the lining out of cotton. So I've been debating about how to construct these sleeves because I am neither doing this the historically accurate method nor the simplicity pattern method, which is basically bag lining. And normally when I do sleeves, I would flat line the outer fabric and the inner fabric together and have like a serged edge seam inside and then turn up the hem. And I know that that is like not the correct method whatsoever for this, but I think I might do it anyway because that gives me the ability to adjust the sleeve later. No one's going to see inside the sleeve anyway. And yeah, I think that's just what I'm going to do. I was already thinking I was probably going to serge the arm's eye, so it kind of just makes sense to continue that on with the sleeve, even though there's really not serging anywhere else on this garment, but when you need to, you need to. So as you can see, these sleeves are now on. I just put them on in the regular method, right sides together, but if I have time, I might add some like hand sewing up here and press the seam the other way because I pressed it this way, which I probably shouldn't have done. Probably should have pressed it that way, and might add some hand sewing up here. I probably won't though because it's probably gonna have trim on top of it. I think I'm just going to bind the bottom of this with some bias tape and just turn it over and hand sew that. I also hand sewed my little pleats. I redid them over here, but frankly, it has me worried because this is what's happening to the skirt. Like, it's being pulled all askance and askew, and I feel like that is not what is supposed to be happening to this. I suppose I could go back to putting this over pocket hoops instead of the grand peignet, see if that makes a difference, because I feel like these stripes are meant to stay down and there should just be more fabric here. And instead, it's really being like pulled quite a bit. I mean, you can see these lines right here where it's pulling to get it over the grand peignet. And I really wanted that size, but I just feel like this isn't working. Like, I need a whole other panel or something in there. So I think I'll try it over the pocket hoops again. I really wanted the bigger silhouette, but hopefully that doesn't happen over the pocket hoops. Yeah, it's just a little disappointing to like do this much work at this point and see that sort of thing happen. This is not enough fabric for the grand peignet, that's for sure. How does it somehow look even more pronounced with the pocket hoops underneath than the grand peignet? It is still such an angle, and all of the like extents that I've seen, I swear the stripes go like straight down and there's enough fabric to get across, get around the pocket hoop or the peignet without having an angle like that. Oh my god, this is gonna drive me crazy, but I don't think there's enough fabric in this and I'm not sure what to do. In pulling this section kind of over and back as much as possible, considering it is sewn to the bodice, that is where I am now getting it to go straight down. And so I'm realizing that's why I didn't see it before when this section of fabric was taking up like this much room. It's because it should take up this much room. It shouldn't be going all the way out to the side. I need more fabric in there. But that means I definitely have to take fabric away from the petticoat. I have to undo this whole seam. I have to undo this again and basically put it back to where it was. Add in another panel that probably goes from the back to the front and like cut a slit in that for the pocket hoop. Oh my god, this is such a bigger project than I was thinking, and obviously that means I'm not going to have enough fabric left for the entire petticoat. I can do the front. I shouldn't have a problem with doing a ruffle on the front, but this is really not the news that I wanted to see here. Why is there so not enough fabric in this pattern? So I've put the grand peignet back on the form and I've put the dress on obviously over it, and I've kind of pulled back the front section so that I can get it to a point where the stripes are falling as they should. And what that means is the front section is nowhere near the front, but you can see that it's basically just a little bit past the side. Like this right here where my finger is really the side where the pocket slit should be, and that is the front. Unfortunately, if I were to just add a panel to the front and pull this up, because this tapers down, if I were to put that all the way up where it needs to go, this is totally not long enough. At least I'm pretty darn positive. I think I might pin it just to be positive, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that I need to undo the seam separating those two panels, add in a new panel, all of that work. Oh my god, it'd be so much easier if I could just add a panel to the front, but I don't really think I can. So I think this is how far off the ground it would be if I were to just scooch this over and add another panel. It's probably like, I don't know, 3 inches, something like that off the ground. And then of course it does need a tiny little hem to be turned as well. Honestly, I might be able to get away with that because by the time it got to the side, like it shouldn't be touching the ground or anything. And I'm fairly certain that this is set to a level where my waist would be even while I'm wearing heels. So I don't think it would look even shorter. So I'm really tempted because that would save me so much trouble. Then I could just add another panel here in the front and maybe, I don't know where I'd have the pocket slit, to be honest. I mean, right here, like this is where my petticoat is overlapping. So even though this is farther front than a pocket slit should be, I do actually kind of need to get in over here just in order to get into the petticoat, and they would like line up that way because my petticoat super overlaps. I made this in like 2010 and it obviously needed to have been pleated tighter. But yeah, I could do that because that would save me so much trouble. So in that case, it begs the question of how much more fabric is needed in order to get to where we need to be for the front. This right here is half a width. I think that's actually overkill because as you can see, it's getting like nearly to the center front and we don't need to be that far over. However, it's not overkill by a ton. Like I'm thinking somewhere between those two stripes is probably where it needs to be. It's hard to say for certain though, and like there's kind of no way to play with it besides literally just doing it. But by doing one panel here, this would still leave me plenty for the front of the petticoat, which is good. Not nearly as much as I want, and obviously the back is going to have to be my poly over here. Yeah, don't pay attention to all of the cotton mess that's on the floor, but this is my poly, and you can see that it is a pretty decent match, so I think it would be pretty okay for the back of the petticoat that doesn't show underneath the gown. In that light, it's a really nice match. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do and just create another panel on each side of the front. That's gonna be so much easier than undoing all of the work that is already there. And then it will just be a little bit shorter in the front, which will be fine. It's just frustrating. I've just sort of tipped the top of this down, like folded it down more in the center, which gives me that angled front look, but still is on the grain over here. And then I've just added some random pleats up at the top. And what wound up happening was that this stripe right here is winding up aligning with the same stripe on the underside, like coming around from the back, which means that I could then cut this panel, like probably about here, along this stripe, and it would blend into the stripe pattern of the panel behind it. So I think that that's going to work because that will still give me some pretty good real estate in the front to show the petticoat underneath, but I think that the stripes will still have enough to go around. I don't know, it's like it looks taut over here. I don't know that it should look taut because that was part of the problem in the back, but if it's not taut, then it won't pull away from the front of the petticoat. So maybe that actually has to happen in the front. When we look at examples like this, like in the Patterns of Fashion book, it does look fairly taut in the front and then has lots and lots of flow in the back. You'll notice those stripes go straight down. So I think that that is the way to go because this has been one of my two primaries for basing this dress on, other than the American Duchess one. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. Have it kind of be taut in the front, have it be nice and flowy in the back. So that means that that cut point right there should work for an extension, and it means that I won't lose too much fabric. I can use the rest of that panel for trim, hopefully. I have added on my new front panels here with the slit open at the top for the pocket slits. I am going to unpick again my hand stitching over here, sew this pocket slit shut, and then replete everything to the bodice. The new panel has been attached to the older panels. I have kind of just pleated up the waist so that it will match vaguely where I think things need to go. I do feel like things are looking a lot better down here. It doesn't feel like it's being pulled out of whack over the Grand Panier. So I think what I'm gonna do is I am going to pleat up the other side like this and just baste it to the bodice. I was debating about just pinning it, but I think it's gonna do better basting it and try it on so that I don't hand sew this again. And yeah, try it on and see if it looks good on as well. Because the problem is like the dress form is not exactly my size. She's a little bit short-waisted for one thing. And so I feel like things are maybe not quite as centered. Like I feel like this is farther back on me. I'm not really sure, but it just seems a little bit off. So yeah, I want to try it on again. I'm going to pleat up the other side to match that and baste it in place, and we'll see if that hopefully works. All right, dress is on. It is definitely way shorter than I would like on the sides, considering that is not even hemmed. I am wearing shoes, but that is not even hemmed, and it is like probably at least 5 inches off the ground. I don't know that you can really tell from your angle here, but it is real short and I don't like it. And part of that is because I wound up having to shorten this area even more because I cut this on an angle, but that meant that when I pleated it, I lost length because like the short parts of the pleats still have to get up into the bodice. I don't know that there's really any way for me to do that otherwise. I don't know, it's driving me crazy. And yet at the same time, like this bit right here, this is actually still too long of an angle, I think. I mean, I want it to go more out like that, to be honest, which would mean that that is the correct angle, but the skirt doesn't really want to sit that way. It keeps wanting to like fall back over and create this little like tuck right here. Sorry, I know we're doing this in the mirror because this dress does not fit in the camera, and since I'm showing you the skirt and skirt length, we have to do this bit in the mirror. But yeah, I don't know how to get that to stay out because I do want more of the petticoat showing more like that, but right now it's wanting to fall down, which now I'm like, does that mean I put too much width into it? I don't think so. By the way, I did not baste anything. It is literally all pinned. I don't know. I'm gonna have to stare at this some more, play around with it in the mirror because I don't know why that's happening, but I don't want the skirt to fall like this. I want it to be like that. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking that what needs to happen is that the slit actually needs to go a little bit further back, like maybe only to here, but to condense these pleats a little bit more, move these pleats, like spread them out more so they're not so dense. Because I feel like when I kind of pull this to the back, like as if this stripe were to start here instead of like here, that is when I get the opening that I want. So I'm gonna zhuzh things around a little, see if I can make that a little bit better and have it hang open more like that. Maybe not that much, but like that. I am actually also thinking that my bodice might be the tiniest bit too long here, like by maybe even up to ½ inch too long, because I feel like that's what's causing these wrinkles here. So I kind of think I need to fold up more of the bodice into the bodice instead of just the ½ inch seam allowance that is currently folded. Okay, I think I have basically solved it. It looks like it is mostly wanting to sit going off at that angle now. I am still getting a little bit of pushback here, but maybe I do just need to zhuzh this up a little bit because basically what I've done is I have made this entire section smooth. Right now I was literally fiddling with the pleats while I was wearing it, so I couldn't repin things, but I did like separately, I went and I repinned so that the center, the split is like right in between these two stripes right here, and that seems to have solved most of the issues, but it was still falling forward a little bit. So then I went and, like, I had my first pleat right here. Now I'm going to make my first pleat here, so it's going to be under this stripe, which also has the added benefit of like those stripes basically line up, which is kind of cool. So I'll have a few pleats here and it will still have the split right in the middle of the blues. I think I may need to pull this up just a little bit. I did also shorten the bodice by ½ inch, tapering it out by the time it got to like about here-ish, I think. So this is still the same length up here, but I made this shorter all the way to the back. So yeah, I think that that's the answer. I have not done anything to this side, so that's why that side doesn't look right. The added benefit was I actually have pleated these at a bit of an angle. I don't know if you can tell that because of the way that I've unpinned and repinned, but they are now kind of angled pleats, which meant that I was able to gain back a tiny bit of length, like maybe a ½ inch length in that side seam right there. So we are still very off the ground, especially now that we are fully apex of the peignets, but I'm going to do the world's tiniest, narrowest hem ever in this section, and hopefully it won't be too noticeable. So let's talk next sewing steps. I need to fix the little bit of pinning right here that I wasn't able to do while I was wearing it, and then I need to match that to the other side. So I need to make this side look like this side. At that point, I can finally re-sew everything in place again at the waist. This is going to be the third time sewing, I mean, at least the back half, third time sewing that at the waist. I'm going to sew all of that. I'm also going to hand sew the front edge of the skirt with just a narrow hem. And honestly, at this point, I also feel comfortable about turning a narrow hem on the hem as well. So I am going to hand sew a lot of stuff. And I'm also going to bind off the arm's eyes here, which is going to be even more hand sewing. And then we can finally get to the petticoat. So while I'm working on the hand sewing, I also really want to get this petticoat figured out. So what I've done is I have taped together the two paper patterns from the Simplicity pattern for petticoat center front and the petticoat side. And I don't want to run into the same problem of not having enough fabric to get around and having my stripes go all wonky. So that's why I have pinned these together, and I have just kind of like, I sort of started doing little knife pleats up here, and I matched up approximately where the side is going to go and wanted to make sure that this was going to drape relatively straight down. It has actually shoved back a little bit here now because I was then looking at the front, because this is all flat panels. And the front, if I actually had the center front here in the center, it was getting super skewed. So I definitely need to add more width to that. And also I'm cutting this differently because this has like a 21-inch wide front panel, and then I'm guessing that's probably somewhat similar. I would really like to maximize my front panel because that's the part that's going to be showing the most, and frankly, I probably only have about one full widths panel that I can do of this, and I want it to be the front of the skirt. So I am just trying to figure out how much more I need to add here, and then I'm going to cut as far as I can into all of this using my front panel, and then the rest of that will be pieced in either with smaller widths or then eventually with the polyester. So this is where it's kind of like hanging down now straight in front, which means I need that much more width to get to the center front. I haven't measured it yet, but I'm guessing it's like 5 inches. Yeah, something like that. Obviously, on top of that, I also really need to add more length to this pattern piece. So I'm going to measure that section right there. I am also going to measure the front section that I need to add on there. And then I'm going to start cutting out my center front panel based on like 5 inches from here and follow kind of the shape of this, because that's the thing, it's shaped so that it's more height to get down over here. I also need to check, yeah, because honestly that is higher off the ground than that is, so I need to add more length over there, less length over here, but I still need to add length. So yeah, I'm gonna do some measurements and start cutting out my front panel. So this is how this is getting laid out. Basically, I have measured 5 inches from the fold over there, which is a 1/2 inch past the pink stripe. And I have lined up the center front, quote unquote, edge of the pattern over there. These are still both the patterns pinned together so that I can just kind of see how far I can get to. And the answer is here. So there is still some pattern left hanging down. And then obviously this is going to have to be in a little bit from there because of seam allowance. And then down here, I have drawn out, okay, this is extended 9 inches over here, including the hem. I think that's going to be the right amount, hopefully. It does get a little bit less up here. So like down there, it's only 7 inches extended. And I know that the center front needs to be 46.5 inches total. I have not measured that yet, but that will help me know kind of the curve down here. I did fold in some of the pattern over there, so you can see that it gets a little lower, but I'm not 100% positive how I want that to taper off. So that's where the 46.5 inches comes in. So I'm going to cut this panel out, and then I have some cut off pieces that I will be able to get that last little extension out of. So the polyester fabric for the back is actually a little bit wider than the silk. You can see it's just a few inches. I think I am actually going to cut it the full width and still add on like the same amount, because that way the back will be a little bit less full. The front is not pleated in the center whatsoever. I don't know if the back ought to be at all, but the other thing that I checked is that I wanted the back to actually be 1 inch longer. So I've kind of tapered that out a little bit there. I'm going to cut that a little lower, but otherwise the back is going to get cut the same. And then I have to figure out, with the meager amounts of the silk that I have left, how to cut the sides. And it's going to involve piecing, because I only have one of these pieces that is 55 inches long, which is the length that I need to get over the side. So it's going to have to be pieced on the top at least. But frankly, my other idea is that I could probably just cut it out of the non-stripy fabric and save the stripy fabric for the trim and flounces and stuff, because I'm going to have a ruffle that goes across the front of the skirt. I'm going to have the flounces on the sleeves. So like there's other stuff that I need to get out of that. I have a dog in my silk, and I don't think that it's going to show it all to have like that 10 inches basically of the blue in the front on the hips, because frankly, if we are looking at the dress form here, those 10 inches are getting pleated like here-ish. So that's fully under the gown. I don't know. I'm tempted to just piece like a little piece in on top, because basically I think I've got one piece that I could get up to like here from the bottom. But I do think the gown probably covers all that. So I might put the gown back on the form and just kind of see. Okay, I've just kind of rough pleated the center panel to the form. You can see kind of how far it goes out on the sides. Let's put the gown on over it and see if that's totally covered. All right, gown is on the form, at least kind of. You can see that it does fully cover the edges. However, there is not a lot of overlap there. Okay, I guess it's actually more than I thought. There's maybe like 15 inches or something of overlap there. So I'm torn, because like if this were to flap open, there's maybe still the risk that the other one would show. Whereas obviously if I put the extra 10-inch panel in, there's a lot less risk of that. Also, I wonder about, so it actually does go like under the pocket slits, which I'm actually gonna have to, that means that I've pleated this up too far, I think, or I've like haven't pleated it up densely enough, because this should approximately line up for where the pocket slits are. And actually that's even with the 10 inches in there, it should line up. So now it's having me wonder, like, do I even need that? Do I just need like a side back panel if this is getting all the way to the pocket slits and my stripes are looking still like nice and not pulled too taut in the front? I wonder if it's the same on the other side. Yeah, actually it is going just a little bit past, because I really only needed the side seams, which should again be 10 inches past where this is, to line up with the pocket slits. But maybe I could actually get away with just doing like a side back panel, because basically what's happening is if we look down here, you can see that it's not getting all the way to the side. This is very hard to show you in this tiny room, but basically you can see that is where the front is coming to. So it's not quite the side seam. Actually, you know what? That's where my pocket slit seam is. So my pocket slit seam is a little bit on the forward side, but actually, yeah, I think I'm just gonna do a back panel. I'm almost wondering now if I should pleat this up in the back and see if it actually gets there without like making things weird on the form. Maybe I don't need those side panels at all. When I take the gown off, I think you can get a better idea of what I mean when I say it wasn't going all the way to the side. Like, yeah, it might look it on the pocket slits, but I feel like there's a lot more of the grand peigne here than there is here. So maybe that is just the understructure itself having that, but let's pleat up the back and we'll see what happens. Never mind, I did not even have to pleat that up. I literally just put it there and you can see neither the twain shall meet. So yeah, I definitely have to put another panel in there. Whether I can get away with it being polyester as opposed to the silk, probably. I mean, obviously this shouldn't be going all the way to the side seam like it is right now, but I don't really know how to get, like, basically this should be over more just based on where it is hitting on the form over here. Like it should be, yeah, I don't know, there. It's so weird because it's like we're taking an area that is, you know, like 40 inches or whatever, and then we're putting that equal somehow to this, which is very significantly not 40 inches. I don't remember what the measurement is, but obviously it's wider than like 120. Yeah, I definitely need a panel in there. Kind of think I can get away with just one panel per side as opposed to two, like one front, one back, and probably can get away with having the pocket slits be here on this, which means that I can also probably get away with having this out of the polyester and use the remainder of my silk for the trimming. So since I have a little bit extra of the stripe to play with, since I'm not making those other two panels, let's think about the sleeve ruffles. The thing is, looking at this pattern, there's a couple things I'm changing. First off, I don't like the little scallops. When I'm looking at Pinterest, what I'm seeing most of are like really large scallops, and most of them actually are not pinked. This is just an example of one, but they're not pinked. They've got trim on the ends. And I don't really know trim wise what I have to play with. Really, the only trim in my stash that's kind of remotely close is something like this, but this is obviously like really thick and really chunky when it's all together, which is what this would be. So I decided to see, like, would this actually hold up if I were to cut this and like piece it, like basically just use, you know, this section, or just use like this section right here. And it does seem to hold. So this seems a little bit better. I like that it's more delicate and kind of fringy. I feel like I could see this acting kind of like a fly fringe. I'm also tempted to cut this part away from it so that it's just these bits right here, and see if I could like pull that a little straighter and use it kind of like a fly fringe equivalent. I think that might be kind of interesting. But yeah, I am going to do 2 tiers of ruffles kind of like on this, but also this is the same size. You cut the same size for every single size. That makes 0 sense because obviously your density of ruffle is not going to be the same. Also, this one right here is really like small compared to the sleeve. I mean, this is the sleeve laying on top of it. You can see it is not much more length than the sleeve. So like there's really not much ruffle that's going on there. So I'm making mine bigger. We're going with, I think, a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 times the width of the sleeve, which obviously this isn't my exact sleeve. My sleeve is about 15 and a quarter inches around. So I'm going to make mine at least 30, maybe 31 inches. Hopefully that will be enough. And then as far as shapes go, the ruffles that are in this, in Patterns of Fashion, I feel like they are much more kind of triangular as opposed to these ones right here, where it's very much like short piece, ruffle, short piece. And that's how both of these are. So I think I'm going to do mine more like this. You can also see the scallops on this. Yeah, I'm going to play around with my trim a little bit more just to see what I can do with this trim. And I am going to cut my sleeve ruffles. I did have a moment of like, what direction am I going to cut them on the grain? Because if I had added the extra panels, there would be no way I could cut them like with the grain, which most 18th century dresses, not all, this one is obviously an exception. Most of them are with grain, cross grain, with grain. This one is with grain everywhere. There are some that are cross grain down here as well, but I don't personally think they look as good. Like this is an example of one on screen right now. And I just feel like the stripe pattern kind of gets lost. So I think I have enough fabric. Part of me is like, oh, I should cut the ruffle because I'm going to do a ruffle kind of like this as well. I should cut the ruffle first just to make sure, which is probably true. Okay, fine. I'll cut the ruffle first and then we'll come back to cutting the sleeve flounces. In the meantime, I'm also going to play around with this and probably like create a pattern is my guess. So yeah, it does seem to still stay together on its own, even by cutting out the little bits in between. And I like this as kind of a fly fringe cheat substitute. I mean, it's been in my stash literally since my court gown, my 18th century court gown, but I think that would be a really cute trim on the sleeves. So that is my plan then. The back panels, the 3 of them are attached together and I have pinned and pleated them all into place. I think I'm going to do the same thing with the front if I have enough pins, and then I'm going to attach the front to the back because I have not yet done that. But I just kind of wanted to see the look so far. I think it looks pretty good. It's got enough fullness, no problem to go over the sides. Technically, according to the pattern instructions, I am supposed to put the trimmings on this now before I do anything to it. However, I am very much a visual person and I feel like I want to see the full skirt first, like even hemmed and everything, and then I want to see all of the trims on it, like how it plays underneath the robe, etc. So yeah, I'm not doing the trims yet. I'm gonna do them later and hope that I don't regret that. I have set the front on its little bias tape waistband. This is basically how I finish all of my 18th century petticoats. I just use bias tape, fold it over. I guess technically this would be like double fold bias tape, and run a zigzag stitch all along it. So first first I do sew it on right sides together, then I turn it and run the zigzag stitch, and that goes for like even the tie portion as well. So next I'm going to do the same thing to the back section, and then I'm going to attach the two at the sides, leaving the pocket slits open, and then I can hem the petticoat and start on the trimming. All right, the base of the petticoat is completed. Both of the panels are now sewn to the bias tape, and they are sewn to each other. It still needs a hem, and obviously it still needs lots of decoration. So that's what I have to think about now, is like where I want the decoration. And also, frankly, what I want the decoration to be made out of. I have enough of the stripy fabric left here to do the, like a ruffle that goes across, like a deep ruffle, you know, probably yay deep or something like that, because it seems like that's an element that a lot of gowns had on their petticoats. It seems like the most common is to actually have that ruffle not at the bottom of the skirt, so that like there is space below the ruffle for additional trimming. Now a lot of times that then is like ruched trimming that goes there, and frankly I don't think I have enough of my fabric for that to be ruched trimming made out of the stripy fabric. However, what I am planning to do on the gown itself is to do ruched trimming out of this fabric. Part of me is almost thinking, maybe I should do this first and put this on the edges first, because that's my plan, like basically to do ruched trimming all along the fronts and the opening and everything. Basically from, yeah, I guess it usually does go all the way around the neckline and then down the entire front. So I could do that first out of this, and then kind of look at what I could do on the skirt, because I'm just concerned that if I have the nice big wide ruffle going across out of the stripy fabric, running the same grain and direction and everything of the stripes on most of the gown, that then if I put a pink band around the bottom, it's gonna look like weirdly cut off. Another potential option, which I should have enough fabric from just because of the way that these needed to be cut out, is I actually have a fair amount of narrower, not quite this narrow, but narrower strips that are running the grain of the fabric. So I could like turn that on its side, which yes, would give me kind of horizontal pink, but it wouldn't be like as abrupt as just a big pink bold line. I think I'm gonna wind up having to do the like with the stripe direction for the sleeve ruffles as well, just based on how much fabric I have left, because besides that little piece I just showed you, I also have this wider piece right here, which I think was the remains of like me cutting out those two additional front panels. And then I also have this piece, part of which is again very narrow and going the grain of the fabric, and then this piece down here, this is what runs actually across the grain and that I can get the ruffle out of. But you see, like, this is what, I don't know, probably less than a yard. I don't know that I can get 4 sleeve ruffles also out of this section right here, and really none of the other sections are wide enough for sleeve ruffles, which is why I think they're gonna have to run like with the stripes going horizontal. It's not the end of the world. Again, like I said before, that did happen. You do see that. It's just less common. Then as far as additional trimming goes, I do want to pull in some more of the pink into the petticoat. And so we see a lot of petticoats like this one, which is my main inspiration, that have like the fly fringe trim on the edge of that petticoat ruffle. And so I was thinking like, well, I could use this along the top of the ruffle. Now I don't know in cases like this, and this goes for both the sleeve ruffles and for the petticoat ruffle, I don't know if when you go to apply fly fringe like that, if you are also like pinking the edges or if you are finishing the edges first. I'm not really sure what was done, because pinked, I mean, yes, it's a time saver, but it's also like a visual detail in and of itself. And then of course the other thing that I have to add into all of my trimming are all of the little sparkly appliques. In case you've forgotten from, I think maybe it was the first video where I showed that, it's all of these little bits that are going to get cut out and sewn on in random places around the gown in order to match the stomacher that is going to have these sparkly bits going across. So I have to figure all of that out, and This is the hard part, honestly, like trying to figure out the trimming. Like, yes, everything else is very meticulous. It has to be fitted correctly. But this is like, what if I throw everything at it and I hate it? And I also don't want it to look like costumey. You know, I want it to look like 18th century, even though this is obviously a costume and I'm using modern things. I am not using fly fringe. I am using random upholstery trimming. So yeah, I do have a good amount of this. It's a little fiddly to have to cut it all out like this, but I do think that it looks really cool and it looks much more like fly fringe when you do cut it all out like that. So I do plan to do that. I just have to figure out how to apply it to the ruffles, both the front ruffle and the sleeve ruffles, how to apply it and how to finish those edges. So I'm gonna see if I can find any information on that. But yeah, actually, I think I'm gonna make some pink ruched sections out of the pinkish color and start applying those to the fronts of the gown, because then it will give me a better idea of how to pull in elements like that into the petticoat. I have ruched up just one width of the fabric there. Cookie says hi, by the way. But I have ruched up just one width and just kind of pinned it haphazardly into place. It feels like very bold. Like, I don't like how bold it looks. It is reading much more of the kind of like cherry as opposed to the frosting. I don't think that it matters what side it is. It's just the way that it picks up light. Like, I don't think it would be any difference on the other side. Yeah, so I have to kind of tone it down somehow. I think that the appliques will help. I think that also I might put some of this, if I have enough of it, I'm going to put this, I think, underneath the bold cherry looking trim and layer this so that these little triangles peek out from underneath. Kind of like this situation. I don't know if it really helps to tone down much of anything at all, but one of the things that I realized is that I can't really gather this trim. Like, even once I've cut off the bulky part, it just doesn't really want to squeeze together and gather. So it's like, I can't apply it directly to this before I ruche it. It has to be after, and then it looked better layered underneath as opposed to on top. It just kind of looked obstructive on top. But then again, this looks obstructive. So, oh, I don't know, you guys. I need to figure something out because I don't have a lighter pink that I could ruche up like this. At least I don't think I do. I'll double check my stash, but I don't think I do. I mean, my whole plan was to use this one, but it's not reading the way I wanted it to. See, this is what's driving me crazy right now. This is the ruche trim. This is a piece of narrower trim out of the exact same fabric that I just cut out for playing with, like around the neckline and on the bodice. And I mean, you can see up there, it looks red. Down here, it looks red. Over there, it is the perfect color match. It's all lighting, but like, obviously, I don't know, this is just looking so bold. I like that color. That's what I was going for. So I'm not sure what to do. I've decided to go with 12.5 inches tall for the ruffle. I'm hoping that I can get the whole ruffle in the front out of just one across, but I do have enough fabric left that I can do two. However, I'm trying to see if I can get away with like using every little last scrap of this in various different ways so that I maybe don't have to use what looks like cherry. And one other thing that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention that I feel like I've heard that not everyone knows about is that if you are doing scalloped edges like this, you do not have to use a pinking shears. You can use a pinking rotary cutter. So this is a scallop blade on the rotary cutter. You just switch it out from your normal blade, and you can get these anywhere. Like, I'll find one on Amazon and I'll link this down below because I can't remember if I got mine at a local shop. I kind of think I did, but you can get them on Amazon. But you just use your ruler and like make sure you don't hit the ruler with your blade. So give yourself kind of a little room. Like, instead of having your ruler right at the edge, have it maybe like back a little bit and then just use it as a guideline. But it's such an easy way to give yourself the nice little pink scalloped edges. I mean, you can get blades for pinking, you can get them for different sizes of scallops. This is just the one that I have, but it works really well. I took that long narrow strip that I was showing you before that was like with the grain, and I ruched that up, and I really like that as the bottom trim. So that is definitely happening. I think next I need to cut out sleeve flounces so that I can know how much more trim I might have to play with of the blue stripey. The other thing that I want to try is I am going to try and cut a strip of this like cross grain, or actually I guess it's with grain because this is cross grain. So I'm going to try and cut it with grain, see if that changes the way that the light picks up on it. It's shot fabric, so it should, but I'm definitely liking this center layout so far. I don't know if I want to put something up there as well. This is all really roughly pinned and the petticoat isn't even hemmed yet, but yeah, I do really like that look. This is the new pattern that I've created for my sleeve flounces. You can see I'm doing really big scallops down here. This is actually going out 2.5 inches farther. So I am going to have kind of this flatter section because that does seem to be popular in some cases. Some of them were like a full, just like almost a triangle. Some of them curved up and then went over. Like you can see the difference in this picture right here between the two of them. So I'm going to extend mine out a little bit, kind of do like a compromise between those two. This top part is just going to be regular scalloped, pinked. I am going to attempt to scallop these. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is going to work with a rotary cutter because I don't have that kind of dexterity with a rotary cutter. I may have to do this with my pinking shears, which unfortunately is only a like dagged pinking shear. It is not a scallop. So if I need to do that, I will change this to dagged as well, just so that there's at least continuity within the same sleeve. So I'm going to do 2 of these. The top one is about 1 inch shorter. So I'm just literally going to like cut off the top of that and it'll be that shorter section. I actually do have some fabric left that goes cross grain. I really want to try and get all 4 of these out of that because obviously I can't do like 2 one way and 2 the other. But I really want to try and get all 4 of it out of that because I really liked the look of shirring going this way. So if I can use kind of the other extraneous bits to do shirring, that would be great. Okay, so here's the thing. I am trying to figure out like every little which way I can basically place this pattern 4 times over, and I can't extend it. I can extend it to like here, but not the 2.5 inches, because if I do it basically to where the center of this fabric is, which is not this line, it's a little bit over, that's just a crease line. But if I extend it to there, like 1/2 inch, then I can fit 1 here, 1 here, 1 somewhere over here. I can't do 2 stacked like I can over on this side, but I do also have that 1 wider piece right there that can also fit 1. I think that can only fit 1. I don't think it can fit more than 1. So that means that I can fit this going vertically. It just can't be extended to have extra width. So that's unfortunate, but it's what's going to have to happen. I was able to very carefully go in and use the rotary cutter for this, by the way, like the scallop one. However, it does mean going in afterwards and clipping a lot of bits that maybe didn't get cut all the way. I also have like 1 scallop on here does not cut well. And so every single time I have to go in and cut that little thread. But this is a lot more than just 1, especially as I'm kind of turning and curving everything. However, it is pretty good and it matches what's already up on top. So the flounces are all now cut out, all 4 of them. And the maybe slightly promising news is that I have this piece left. And oh gosh, it's all like the littlest things. This piece left, which goes all the way down here and all the way here and here. And there's still pins left in this piece. And this piece left. So I have a lot of like pink stripe bits within this. And again, I really like the look of the bottom ruched bit that I did, which has the centered pink stripe on it. So I think that what I'm going to attempt to do is just like cut widths that are a little bit wider than the pink stripe and just cut a whole bunch of them and ruche all those up and put them all over the front of the gown, and hopefully that will work. I guess the one other thing that I should think about doing is saving enough space somewhere that I can get the stomacher out of this. That is the one other thing that I haven't cut. And although it is going to be covered with like trims and stuff, I feel like this is still what needs to be the base. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to cut little strips of everything. Of course, what's ironic about all of this is that the pink has actually been growing on me. I think it's just because it's sitting on there for so long, but I do think it's going to look better with bits of this ruched up instead. So the grain does make a difference, but I don't think it makes enough of a difference. This is the one that was cut cross grain. This is the one that's cut with the grain. You can see that it is definitely lighter. However, it is still quite red toned as well. And so I still think that it is too much. Now over here, I have done a little test piece of the stripe area. So this one is 3.5 inches wide, which is the same as these over here. And that means that I get a little bit of blue on each side. I've just ruched it up. At first I put it straight because that was what I had intended to do. And I feel like it kind of blended in a bit with these stripes over here. And then I had the thought like maybe I should wave it or, you know, kind of S-curve it. I didn't want to do that because for one thing, this is my last dress, my court dress, and you can see that's what I did there. However, it does mean that there's kind of a nice spot to put like the blingy pieces on. I still don't know exactly how I want to incorporate those, but I could wave it. The thing is, I feel like that would need to be done with a narrower trim here. I think this might be a little bit wide, though I do like how the blue is on the edges. 2, I still would need some sort of trim here because I feel like normally even when you do see the curvy bits, you also see a narrow trim right along the front. And 3, curves take more fabric, and what I don't have is a lot of fabric. So I don't know that that would even work. My thought is to make enough of this in the 3.5 inch wide that I can at the very least do waist down straight. See how much fabric that takes up. Then in a narrower width, because it usually seems to taper around the waist and continue tapering up to the neck or to the shoulder at least, a narrower width would come up and around the edge of the bodice. If I still have stuff left over, then I could see the idea of maybe doing more. But I do think that that is just wrong. I've posted a poll on Instagram and it's only been up for like an hour, but you guys don't seem to feel that it's wrong. But to me, it just looks so garish. And I do like that it pops. Like I wanted pink because this does blend in a little bit more, which is not what I wanted, but that pops too much. Okay, but now here's an interesting development. I had a narrower piece of this. I think this is 2.25 inches wide. I had cut that out for the neckline area. So I decided to just like ruche it up and put it on the dress form. I feel like I like it a lot better actually in person than I do on camera. Looking through this monitor on camera, it's still reading very red. In person, it's not looking as red. It's still a little bit berry, but it's not like cherry. So, yeah, I don't know. Cause like this is still kind of just disappearing for me. Whereas that does have a nice pop, but again, on camera, it is popping too much. More to think about. Or this is pretty fun. I don't know. I wish I had more of the stripey to play with, because then I could just like cut all of the pieces up and just play with them and arrange them and see what would happen. But yeah, that is pretty fun. So I don't know that I love this method, but both the American Duchess book and the pattern say to treat both layers of this as one when running the gathering stitches. So I have the 2 layers pinned together. I did sew this seam separately on both because I read the pattern after I'd already done that, and the pattern and the book, it says to seam these together as well. But I seamed them after. I just feel like when you gather things together, they sit really close to each other and you don't really get to enjoy the ruffled edges. So I don't know, I'm doing it anyway because I don't feel like running a bazillion gathering stitches. So these are going to get gathering stitches about 1 inch down and then about 1 inch from there. And then they're going to get sewn to the sleeves. So I'm putting all of the pieces on right now to look at a few things. One, hem, which like, ooh, this was basically the length I wanted it. It's not hemmed yet, so that's going to get another really, really narrow hem in the front. The back is going to get an actual hem because that is dragging currently. Maisie is wearing a cone because she scratched her ear, so that's what's going on with Maisie, blocking my hem, of course. But yeah, I am going to need to turn up the back a little bit because it's dragging on the ground, and I don't really feel like the petticoat is meant to do that. That's really more of a gown thing. So she is trying to look for an opportunity to get under my skirt while I'm wearing it right now, which hopefully with the cone doesn't happen. But I really like the trim placement here. I need to put on the gown to make sure that the edges are all covered, but I do really like that petticoat trim. So if the edges are covered, I just need to basically turn up the hem. There she's going. I just need to turn up the hem and actually sew that in place, because that is still just pinned in place. So let's put on the gown. And the other thing with the gown is I need to double check that the stomacher that I have been like having as my mock-up this whole time actually works, because since I made the gown out of silk, the stomacher has seemed small. Oh no, you guys. The robe is so short on the sides that you can see the blue panel in the back. Granted, that is not hemmed yet, but like I wasn't going to hem it. Hi, Macy. Yeah, that is exactly what we're looking at right now. Thank you. I was not going to hem it as short as the gown, but maybe I have to. Crap, that looks awful. I really hate that. It's so short. Like, it's so short. I think I might have to hem the whole petticoat that short. Oh, it's not what I wanted. I am wearing a heel, but like it's just the American Duchess. I think these are the Devonshires or something. They're really old ones. Yeah, that drives me crazy. Oh no. Oh no, because the petticoat is such a nice length. Oh, I hate that. I wish they had little ruffles that they put on the bottom, but then again, I have no more of the fabric anyway, so I can't add ruffles. That's gonna drive me so crazy. Oh, I hate that. Maisie says that she hates it too. Okay, gown is fully fastened on the stomacher. I will show you that closer up, not in the mirror, in a minute. It is just really bugging the crap out of me that the highest point on the gown, yeah, she did take that off and I can't get to it because I'm wearing this stupid thing. But the highest point on the gown is exactly where the seam is to go to the back panel that, yeah, it's annoying me. Obviously, we are not seeing the, oh shoot, I said we are not seeing the edges of the trim, and then this got kind of hung up and made it so that I am seeing the edge actually of the bottom. So that bottom one's going to need to be slightly less ruched and get spread out a little bit more. Though I think something is caught or twisted. Oh yeah, something's caught right in the center front, so that should help that. I don't know what happened there, but something is definitely caught. So hopefully that is why that is not getting all the way there. But I think regardless, I might spread that one out a little bit more, make it go just a little bit further, just so that this doesn't like move up and we see the edge there. Okay, let's go take a look on the camera on a tripod, and I will show you the sleeve and the stomacher and stuff. I do apologize for all the mirror footage, but this room is very tiny. So literally, if the camera is all the way across the room, this is as much of the gown as you can see. So I have the stomacher on. Well, I mean, I have my mock-up stomacher on, which is what I've been using, though it's such a nice color match. I wish I had silk this color. But yeah, so that is on. However, it is definitely like not as far in, because I had lines that I drew on here in the first video of this project. It's not as far, like coming as far closed as it was originally. I have already cut this out of linen. I have not cut this out of anything else. I think the linen, no, you know what? I think we're actually gonna have to recut the linen. Luckily I do have more linen. We're gonna recut it a little bit wider. Just the sheer nature of like silk has no stretch, whereas this mock-up cotton that I've been using, it does stretch a little. It's cotton. So when I was fitting all of the mock-ups, etc., we were getting a little bit more pull than with the silk, which does not do that. Though at the same time, it is like feeling loose. No, I think we're fine. My chemise is totally showing. I don't think I'm gonna have time to make a new chemise, but maybe I will have some sort of surprise next week that I will actually have time. I have the sleeve ruffle pinned onto this sleeve, as you can see. I think it looks very nice, so I will go ahead and sew that in place and pin the other side and sew that side on, so that's great. Yeah, it's really just those stupid short sides that are driving me insane. And I don't think there is anything that I can do about it, because like obviously piecing is period, but I'm basically out of fabric. So I don't think I can piece any little bit in there of the hem that of course I have already sewn at this point, or at least sewn most of. I don't really think I have a little wedge that I could piece in there and still like match the stripes. But it definitely, like, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So I don't know what to do, because like I don't want to then go hem my petticoat super stupid short, which if I hem my petticoat that short, then my petticoat like under that is gonna show. I honestly don't know what to do. And it's driving me crazy. And for some reason this feels loose in the back. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I just want it to be that little bit longer. I'm staring in the mirror over here, so that's why I'm not looking at you. I just want it to be like 3-4 inches longer, and then I would be fine. And it's really just from like 3 stripes back to it's to the center front, really. Like where the very front edges are, that's an okay length in my opinion. Though it's still shorter than the petticoat, which the petticoat is my preferred length. Granted, no, neither of them have been hemmed in that location. Yeah, guys, I don't know what to do. Maybe I should look through my scraps and see what I have that I could potentially piece in, but I don't have much. I think I'll look at it and see if there's any possibility that I could undo the hem in that section and piece something in. But this is not the news that I wanted to find at all. So I don't know. I was expecting fully to just like finish the sleeve ends and do a lot of hand sewing today, because that would get me into the point where I'm able to put all of the trimming on. And actually at this point I can put the trimming on the petticoat too. I feel comfy about that regardless of hem length. It's just frustrating. So I guess then that brings me back to the question of trimming, because if I need to figure out how to piece some of the striped fabric into those like hem areas, then that means that I have less for trimming. And again, looking at it here in the monitor, this looks so red, and I just looked at it in the mirror and it doesn't look red. It looks salmon. I don't know. I mean, I might have to at this point. I honestly might have to. But it's like, it's not what I want. I want salmon. And this looks salmon until it doesn't. So I am going to attempt to piece bits of the hem and try to make it look as nice as possible. And then I'm going to see how much fabric I have left over. I also still need to cut the stomacher out. So I need to piece hem, I need to cut stomacher. And then we're going to see how much trim I can get out of the rest of the blue and pink. And we are going to make up as much trim as I possibly can, and then maybe supplement it with this, because like I didn't mind it when it was in kind of the squirrely pattern on the skirt. I thought that was kind of fun, but it's really not the color that I want, but I don't have the color that I want. So that's moot, because I can't use what I don't have. So we're just gonna see what we can do. So apparently I never filmed an outro, but this is where we were stopping for this week's video and this week's progress. And next week I will be finishing the dress. So definitely be sure to check back for that video, or subscribe if you are not already subscribed. But yeah, that's everything so far. Time is definitely ticking down. The event is in less than a week, and we're finishing this dress next week. So hopefully you like this video. If you did like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, as I said, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean, Kim, and the Dowager Duchess Isabel Thompson. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!